Hello, folks. Welcome back to the Britt, Kanawha, West Hancock Athletics Podcast. This is Dan Kroll. Tonight is episode 56, sandwiched in between a couple of playoff episodes with Jay and Kevin. The guy I have in the middle here is Dan Cooper. Dan is a local West Hancock football hero because of a lot of things, but a particular catch that he made in the 1993 playoffs. And then he's helped get a ton of people onto my podcast Facebook group page by inviting a bunch of people. So I'm always grateful for that. How are you tonight, Dan?
Very good, very good.
Yeah, good to have another Dan on here. That's always fun. So Dan to Dan conversation. So
You
yeah.
got it.
Before we get to Dan, I got to recognize my sponsors for tonight. The goal, like always, is to raise money for the Sanger Legacy Fund through this podcast. I have 15 sponsors for tonight. So thanks to those sponsors. I am going to make a little tweak to my format of how I do the podcast, kind of condensing down my ads that I read. I'm thinking longevity of this podcast, and I want this to go on for a long time and raise some good money still, but also respect people's time. These podcasts go an hour 20 up to 2 hours sometimes. I'm just trying to save a few minutes here and there, so it's a little more accessible and watchable for people that maybe are busy and all that stuff. So I'm trying to condense it down a little bit. So you'll notice some ads got shrunk down a little bit. A couple of my sponsors said that they're totally okay with that. And they assume that everyone else would be as well. The point is to raise money for the fund, regardless of what it looks like on screen. So those sponsors I have tonight: Nick Schmidt, Levi Dawn Trucking, Miller and Son Golf Cars, Carlson Drainage, Jay Hiscocks of State Farm Insurance, Eric Kroll of Ag Performance in Buffalo Center, Kelly Real Estate, Window World of Mason City, Jade and Tyler Kalsdorf, Swenson's Hardware, the Britt Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise, Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company, Daniels Auto Collision, Kurt Kopachik, and West Side Eagles Storage. And like always, the Sanger Legacy Fund is used for the West Hancock Hall of Fame. We give scholarships to graduating seniors. We support the athletic and activity funds as needed, and as well as other community outreach programs as needed. Please consider giving or sponsoring the podcast. You can go to sangerstrong.com to do that. All right, way back when, I have some prior episodes to highlight. 5 episodes ago, in episode 51, was Super Bowl champion Josh Hartman. 15 episodes ago, in episode 41, was the 2011 and 2012 girls basketball team from those years they made it to state. 30 episodes ago, in episode 26, were the 2021 senior football players, the two-time state champions. And then 45 episodes ago, in episode 11, I had the Goepel, Seth and Stacey on with me. So check those episodes out. If you haven't already, they'll be linked in on my post tonight on Facebook. All right, the Jay Hiscocks State Farm Team in Britt is a proud supporter of West Hancock and the Sanger Legacy Fund. Give Jay or Lindsay a call at 641-843-3563. That's Jay Hiscock State Farm Insurance Team. And then Nick Schmidt, he's a 2000 West Hancock graduate and wants to give back to the Sanger Legacy Fund. So thanks again to Nick Schmidt. Carlson Drainage, thank you for sponsoring the podcast. They're there for all your farm tile needs. Give Darren Carlson a call at 641-860-0500. That's Darren Carlson and Carlson Drainage. And then one of my long-term sponsors, Michael and Breanne Ewing of Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. Give them a call at 843-3839 or 762-3211. That's Ewing Funeral Home and Monument Company. And then I have Daniels Auto Collision in Charles City. Give Jason Daniels a call at 641-220-3805. Email them at danielsautocollision@gmail.com or check them out at danielsautocollision.com. And then Jade and Tyler Kalsdorf, I'd like to thank them for sponsoring some episodes. Tyler and I played football together in 04. He's an 08 West Hancock grad, and they just wanted to give back. So thank you to the Kalsdorfs. All right, Dan, here we go. Tell us about you. How's life these days? What's going on?
Life is good. Married, 2 kids. Everybody's happy. What else can you have?
Yeah, where are you guys living these days?
We live in Marion, Iowa, which is over by Cedar Rapids.
Yep. Yeah. What are you doing for work and whatnot these days?
Well, I am the luckiest guy in the world. I'm the stay-at-home father.
Nice.
So my kids go off to school, and I'm home.
Nice.
Cleaning the house, prepping meals, mowing the yard, cleaning the snow, all the regular man jobs.
Nice. Good deal. Yeah, and that's no that's not, not doing anything. I'd say stay-at-home parents are busier probably than sometimes people are at a job. So, yeah,
I agree. I agree.
good deal. What are your kids in the Linmar district then? Is that where they would go?
We're in that district, but they go to St. Joe's Catholic School.
Okay, nice. Good deal. Yeah, talk about growing up in the West Hancock communities. What was life like you're kind of in that mid to late 80s, early 90s? What was that like back then?
I grew up on a small farm in Kanawha, the good town, and I lived a mile outside of town, closer to Britt, and I would run into town a lot. I'd ride my bike, I'd ride a moped when I was able, and I would go to town, go swimming, play with Jade Johnson. We played a bunch of times. Brandon Assink, Zach Larson. My dad worked at his mom's accounting firm for a while, so me and Zach, we always hung out, went out to his place, and we had all kinds of fun in Kanawha. Always finding some kind of trouble and mischief to have.
Yeah, in that huge town of 700 people or whatever it is now. Yeah. Uh, Farm life, did you have to do a lot on the farm then?
I did not. I was always too young to do a lot of stuff. I always wanted to go out and help dad in the field, drive the tractor, drive the combine. But I did get to sit on the auger, run the auger numerous times. I always enjoyed. It was great fun cleaning out the hog sties, clean out the pig pen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo.
Your folks, they still living out there? What's your family, siblings, parents?
Well, my brother went to Iowa State and he's moved over to the Cedar Rapids area. He's the head fire chief in Ely. My younger sister went to Iowa State and then she went to UNI and graduated from there because Iowa State did not have the exact major that she wanted.
Okay.
And then now she lives over in just outside Anamosa. So she's over here in eastern Iowa as well. And my parents, who did live in Kanawha, which is 2.5, 3 hours away, they moved over here and live in Mount Vernon.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
And
be
they've
around
been
the
there
kids and
for, yeah, a little over a year because they wanted to see their grandkids' activities.
yeah, good for
So
them.
they drove over here and over here now.
Good for them. Good for you guys. Free babysitters, right?
Basically,
Yeah. Yeah. Talking about school here a little bit. I assume you went to the Kanawha Elementary, and then the middle school would have been in Kanawha by the time you were in there. What was your school experience like? Some of the teachers that influenced you?
my grade school was fun because I started in the super big, monstrous brick building that was over right off of Main Street. And I think I went there until third grade is when they built the new one right off of the middle school.
Okay.
So, and I don't remember much about that except for going down and having gym in the basement, which seemed like a dungeon, the big concrete pit, kind of like the bottom of a swimming pool.
Yeah.
And we're down there and we're sitting on these roller seat cart things, sliding around on the floor and bamming into each other. And that was always more fun than going to school.
Yeah. Yeah. Who would have been some of the teachers you remember from back in the day?
Back in the day, Betty Kobus was my kindergarten teacher. First grade, I cannot remember. Second grade was Mrs. Dreesen, I think, and then she became Mrs. Hoskins, something like that. I
Okay.
remember a girl that I went to school with in second grade, Taryn Scherschel, who's moved away long before now. She and I and our parents went to Mrs. Dreesen's wedding, and I don't remember where it was, but it was fun to go do things like that.
Yeah.
Third grade was Mrs. now Ziegler. She's married to Merlin Ziegler. I think it used to be Mrs. Olson, and maybe that was fourth grade. Anyway, third or fourth. Fifth grade, I had Mr. Savoy, and he was also, I think, like an assistant or the head basketball, at least middle school coach. So I guess sixth grade was Mrs. Olds. My age, my years. I
That's
couldn't
right.
tell you
No one
some
will
of it.
be offended. Don't worry. Now, what about?
Then middle school
Yeah,
over there. Middle school now was amazing. Seventh and eighth grade, we were the first. My class was the first West Hancock class to go all the way from seventh through graduation together. So that's something I'm proud of.
yeah. What was that like combining in with? I mean, we all combined in with Kanawha kids at some point, but you were the first one. Was there some animosity towards one another? Was there any fights or anything like that, or was it pretty peaceful?
It was peaceful. There was a little bit of, in my mind, animosity. And I don't want to say names, but some of the guys I remember having to come to Kanawha to go to school, they didn't enjoy that. They'd rather stay in Britt, their hometown.
Yeah,
Yet, after the first year, the second year, they were more okay with driving down to Kanawha, riding a bus, because it was more fun with us Kanawha kids.
yeah, yeah. I just know sometimes sports, it's an athletics podcast, so leaning more towards sports, there can definitely be like I would have been starting if we wouldn't have combined, and there's 12 other kids I have to knock off their spot now, type of thing. Do you remember any of that, or was it pretty much the best player played, and that's how it is?
I think in middle school, it was always the best player played. And if you weren't the best, work,
Yeah,
get better.
yeah, yeah. I could see there being some troubles with that, but a lot of people I've talked to, things went pretty smooth. People weren't, they said it's a lot of times more the adults than it is the kids that struggle with things. So, yeah. Yeah, I enjoyed my experience in Kanawha. It was nerve-wracking at first for sure, just different building, merging in with some different kids, the different teachers. But man, once you got settled in, it was a lot of fun. It was just like a different world over there, and then you came right back to Britt and kind of more what you were used to. So yeah,
It was slower, more rural. Canal was just laid back.
yeah,
Britt was always high strung. Like you were saying before, the parents seemed to be more go getters, go get it done, get this done, go this way, as opposed to Canal. It's like,
yeah.
if you can do a good job, do it. Do it. If you can't, keep working.
Yep. So, yep. And now I don't think you can hardly tell a difference. The communities are pretty mirrored, I would say. I a lot of times don't know who lives in Britt, who lives in Kanawha when I'm back home or at a game or something like that. So, yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna get into some sports here. I'm gonna get
I
through. Oh, go ahead.
I agree, Dan. I can't tell Kanawha from Britt people. Just West Hancock is West Hancock.
Exactly. Yep. And the way that that's always the intention at the beginning is to get to that point, and I think we're definitely at that point. So. Yeah. So, all right, let's a few more sponsors here, and then we're going to talk track and field. That was one of your big sports. The Showalter family in Window World in Mason City is a proud sponsor of the podcast. Once an Eagle, always an Eagle. Fly High Coach Sanger and Joey Showalter. Miller and Son Golf Cars in Britt. Contact them at 843-4132. Email them at customerservice@millergolfcars.com. Visit them online at millergolfcars.com. That's Miller and Sons Golf Cars. And then Westside Eagle Storage, owned by Kim Dolphin, is my next sponsor. She's excited to offer Britt and the surrounding communities a place to store their possessions. Give Westside Eagle Storage and Kim a call at 641-251-1863. And then thank you to the Britt Car Truck Bike and Tractor Night Cruise. Check out their website, brittcarcruise.com, or contact Jared Wingert. He's also the owner of Mojo Productions at 515-408-1074. And then Levi Don Trucking is my next sponsor. Thanks to Levi Don and his trucking company for sponsoring the podcast. Call Levi at 641-860-0077 or look him up on Facebook, Levi Don Trucking in Britt. All right, let's talk track. You were fast. Just boom, you were a fast guy. So let's talk about it.
You wanted to say trash. I heard you. Let's talk trash.
Yeah, that too. That works. Trash, track, same thing. We'll get to it. So in the springtime, when you weren't playing football, you were out there on the track with Coach Sanger. In 1992, as a freshman, You were on the state championship track team. You competed at state in the medley and the 4x4. There you go. I love it when they put their old stuff on there. So West
There it is.
Hancock. I see Drake relays,
Oh
1992,
yeah,
all sorts of good stuff. So, uh, what was that like running with John De Leon, Eric Rasmussen, Brian Aitchison, Eric Eisman? I know Rick Sanger was on that team. Nasty Nate
yeah.
Sure, as I like to call him. What was that like
It
as
was
a
amazing.
yeah?
It
Talk about
was
that a
amazing.
little bit.
You learn a whole bunch from older gentlemen, and I shouldn't call them gentlemen, but the older guys. They were always fun to be around, and that was honestly my older brother's class. So then I felt, hey, I shouldn't be so friendly with your buddies because I'm this little peon. But it worked out great when they were my teammates versus just the guys at school.
Yeah, yep. You guys didn't place at state in those two events. Do you remember how you guys did though, and what was it like just competing at state?
State was amazing back when I was a freshman. It was so cool to be there, to run around the blue oval. I loved it. I I loved it so much. I had it another 4 years in college,
Yeah,
but that's for another time. No, we didn't place in state in that, but I don't know how you get a state championship for a team unless you do well in some of the other events with some of your other teammates. And those guys did great.
yeah. And did that just give you got a taste of it? Um,
Yes.
Kind of fuel your fire for the next several years of staying in shape and training to get to that point.
Yep, exactly. And I knew there was a kid, I was going to beat him. Same thing happens when you're running not only district, but if you're running any track meet, it's time to go and take people down.
Yeah,
You just run and you pass. Or when you get in the front, stay there. Don't don't fall back and let people pass you. That's no fun trying to catch up again.
yeah. And you could probably hear Coach Sanger in the stands yelling at you those exact same things, couldn't you? He's letting you know what to do.
In the stands, what are you talking about, Dan? He
Or
was down right there next to the track,
down there
on
on the home stretch.
on
Sorry.
the apron, on the apron. You bet. He was he was there, not quite in your face as much as you could hear what he was saying. It was helpful. It's like
Yeah,
keep going where you're at 6:55. You got to be at 7 or whatnot. Actually, should have been more like 5 rather than 7. Faster.
yeah. I at school today I actually had a conversation with my coworker who's the head volleyball coach, and she was teasing her assistant who's the boys track coach, and she goes, "How much coaching is there? It's literally just run fast and turn left." And I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea. There's a whole lot that goes into track, and I can attest from Coach Sanger, just like he knew what split this kid needed to get, what to do to get that kid to get to this split, how to put a lineup together, where to put this kid to get a couple more points in this meet, and then to be ready for state to place high and win state championships. He knew how to move those puzzle pieces around just perfectly. I said to this coworker of mine, I'm like, it's just like watching golf or something. Oh, you just swing the club and the ball goes there. Like there's a million little things that you do to make a successful track team. So yeah, it's good timing for that
There
time.
were many there sorry Dan, there were
Oh,
many meets where I wasn't running my event because I would be placed in some relay. So I didn't have I only you could only run 3 events and do a field event, 4 events total. So I was already running a 4x2, the sprint med, and the 4x8. So I couldn't run my 400 hurdles, which were my race.
mm,
But I dealt with it. I'm like, that's fine. Basically, I already qualified for state, so I can go ahead and skip that race. It'll be
yeah,
fine.
yeah, yeah. And back then, you could qualify for state the first meet of the season. And then you could kind of switch people around as you needed to in relays. It was like get in and then figure it out later type of thing. Just get as many events in as you could. So it was a much different system than now where you have the district meet and you put these 4 people in this race, and if they make it to state, that's the 4 people going to run that event at state. was kind of a Wild West back then. I compared it to with how you had to qualify to get in.
Oh yeah, I agree. It was more fun. It's like you qualify for one, try the four, qualify in the eight, qualify in the 1600 medley, qualify in the 4x2, qualify in the 4x4. I remember my junior year, I was running the 4x2. Me, an 800 runner running the 4x2 relay, which
Yeah.
was fine. We got second at state that year,
Yeah.
but it was all fun doing whatever race coach wanted me to do. I'd say, sure. You want me to race Nate Smith in the 100? I'll give it a try.
Yeah. I know that's going to end up, but I'll give it a try. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He was pretty quick too, I hear.
He was.
Yeah.
That's
Uh,
how you get 4 state championships out of a guy, being pretty
yeah.
quick.
Yep. Not too bad. So let's move to 1993, your sophomore year. You broke the North Iowa Conference record in the 400 hurdles with a time of 55.64. The old record was 55.7 set by Chandler Steffi of Belmont in 1989. Do you know how long that record lasted, or does it still stand? Do you have any idea on that?
I have absolutely no idea. I hope it stands, but if it doesn't, I hope I broke it.
Yeah. Records are meant to be broken, but if it's not your school against your school, it's nice to keep that record as long as you can. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then at state, you guys placed fourth as a team. You ran in the 400 hurdles. You got third. How close were you to winning the state championship that sophomore year in the 400 hurdles? Do you remember how close that race was?
I think that may have been closer than my junior, definitely my senior year. He pulled away far, but I think I was much closer when I was a sophomore than I was the other two. But
Okay.
we're not there yet. I'll
Yeah.
keep waiting.
Yeah. Well, do whatever you want. I don't care. This is your podcast. So, yeah. Um, you were also on the 4x8 team. You, Eric Marchand, Brian Aitchison, and Eric Eisman ran an 8:17. Back then, I don't believe eighth got you a medal. Nowadays, top 8 gets a medal, but I think it was top 6, right?
Yep, it was top 6.
Yeah. So you went by today's standards, you placed, but back then you didn't place technically. So however you want to look at that. What else do you remember about that sophomore year? What else happened at track in the track season?
Track season in sophomore year. I really don't have a clue.
Yeah.
I don't
Um,
remember how we did at conference even.
yeah, I couldn't find that either. But it was another year of Nate Smith winning the 100, another year of Randy Thompson from Corwith winning the 100, and it culminated in that next year, your junior year, 1994. Randy Thompson, CWL, and then Nate Smith, West Hancock, Class 2A, and they both won 4 straight 100-meter titles. And then minutes later, or earlier, I can't remember where it was in the meet, but Tim Dwight of Iowa City, who played in the NFL, played for the Hawkeyes, he also won his 4th 200-meter title. Do you remember that day of watching all those historical feats happen with Thompson, Smith, and Dwight?
I do. And it was amazing. I was always rooting for Smith. Even when he used to run against Thompson, I always rooted for Nate
Yeah.
because Thompson wasn't from my school. Even though back in Kanawha, it was Kanawha Corth West of the Verne before we joined up with Britt. And I thought that was pretty cool. But that was before Thompson started his athletic career in becoming the 4-time state champ that he is. I thought it would have been cool to have him on my team
Yeah.
back when I was just a knee high to a grasshopper.
Yeah. And can you imagine your team? I mean, if you could have put, mixed him into the lineup, you guys placed third that year behind Ballard and St. Edmunds. Ballard had 39 points, St. Edmunds had 31, and we had 30. Imagine if you had a Randy Thompson to throw in a few more events, that would have been probably an automatic state championship.
Oh, yeah. I do remember back in, I believe it was 93, would have been my sophomore year, his junior year. Randy Thompson won. Did he get second at state by himself? Because he
Isn't that
won the
what?
100. I think he won the 2. He may have possibly even won the 4, and then he placed third, I believe, in the long jump.
Oh,
So he
geez.
had second state title by himself. Not title, I'm sorry. Second in state by himself
Yeah.
for the whole
That
show.
also happened. So Buffalo Center, where my parents are from, North Iowa school district, they had a really good track team in like it was 2009, something like that. They won the 4x1, won the 4x2, won the 4x4, and a girl got second in the 100. But a girl from North Tama, she won 4 individual events. It was like the open 2, 4, 8, and the something hurdles. And she got 40 points to North Iowa's 38 and literally won the state title by herself when
Wow,
they allowed you to run 4 events more recently than what you were doing with 3 in a field event. So yeah, crazy stuff.
that
Um,
sounds absurd. It's just absurd.
yeah,
But those are the times.
yep, that's how it works. Uh, your junior year, 94, you were the state runner-up in the 400 hurdles. You were saying before your sophomore year was closer than that race. So you had a third place finish and a runner-up finish in that race. And then you also ran the 4x2, like you were saying earlier. You, Nate Smith, Troy Dawn, and Al Love placed second with a time of 1:30.9. And then your distance medley team won the state title, and you guys broke the state meet record with a time of 3:31.24, broke it by 2 seconds. Uh, you, Al, Nate, and Rob Thompson were that team. Mid Prairie in 2008, they've held that record since 2008 with a 3:26.16. So I don't know how long your record held for, but they got it by a good 5 seconds. Uh,
Yeah,
did you ever keep track of that? Like you'd watch this, pay attention at state to see if your record held or check the record book at all? What'd that mean to you?
I did for a while, and then it kept. Back in those days, it was, well, we're still there.
Yeah,
Well, we're still there the next year. Then, oh, we're still there. What? We got beat? Somebody beat our record? And the
yeah,
time that they beat us by, wow, I don't think we could ever run that fast.
yeah. And kids just keep getting faster and stronger nowadays. It's if you look at the record book, most things have a 2-0 in front of the last two numbers on the year that the record was broken. There's not a ton from the 1900s anymore. It's all fairly recent for the most part. So
Right.
yeah,
They beat the 19, somebody beats the 1900 class, and then they themselves get beat as well. But
yeah.
like you said, records are made to be broken.
Yep, yep. Especially as kids keep getting bigger, faster, and stronger, and um, that's just how it goes. So then, your senior year, 1995, you guys were state runner-ups as the team. So just breaking down your 4 years of high school track, I don't know for sure, but this has to be one of, if not the greatest stretches of track in Coach Sanger's career. State championship, third place. Um, I'm losing track of where I was. So yes, you got third, second, third, and what I say fourth, I think. So yeah. So top four all 4 years with a championship and a runner up. That's a good 4 year stretch team wise. You were second again in the 400 hurdles. So you had two runner ups and a third place finish in that race. You lost that year to Brent McLagan of Jefferson Scranton. Your 4x8 team, Steve Perkins, Chad Klein, and Al Love, and you. You were just outside of scoring any team points. The D-Med team won another state title. This time it was you, Rob Thompson, Al Love, and Chad Klein. So a little bit of a mix of younger and older guys, but it still
Yep.
resulted in another state title. After the second day, so that Friday, you guys were tied for the lead with two different teams, but you end up losing by 2 points in the team race to Iowa Falls. Did you have any like woulda, coulda, shouldas at that point? Where like only if we would have ran a half a second better in this race, we would have scored 2 more points or something like that? Did you guys kind of figure out those scenarios?
I'm not sure if the other teammates at the time were thinking of that, but I know I was, because I'm like, if I would have won those 400 hurdles, those would have been the points we needed.
Yeah.
But I know that kid that beat me, Brent McLagan, who beat me both my junior and senior year, he did go on to run at UNI, and he was coached by Joey Woody, who's another all-star from Iowa City High, just like Tim Dwight.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. Does it bug you at all that you never got a 400 hurdle title? Did it eat at you for a while? Does it still?
All the time.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, you could go on and win a national championship in college, but a lot of times guys will go back to those high school moments they missed out on and say that hurts even worse than, you know, something that happened later on. The high school stuff
Mm-hmm.
really seems to sting a lot.
Right.
Yeah. So again, yeah, first, fourth, third, and second. What can you say about Coach Sanger, Coach Hauge, your teammates, and just running track for West Hancock? What was that like in general?
It was amazing. I thought Coach Haug, in his class that I never really took his class, but I do know going down at study hall break, we always played cards in Haug's class. Who's got the cards today? We'd go down there and we're playing,
I'm sure.
and it was it was always fun. And Coach Sanger's classes, they were always a joy as well. I always liked the PE better than any other class he tried to teach,
Yep.
or if he just was teaching it, we always weren't paying that much attention.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's let's go do something athletic. Let's go do something pull-ups, push-ups, run laps, not sit here and learn about health.
Yeah. Yep. And I loved his health class. But definitely when it was PE day, it was time to go. We were a bunch of gym warriors. Yeah. With wiffle ball. For some reason, we loved wiffle ball. We could play that for months with him in the gym and never got tired of playing wiffle ball. What was your go-to PE activity?
Pickleball. Pickleball was the best.
Yeah. Did you ever play Coach Sanger in pickleball or ping pong?
I didn't seriously play against him. Yeah, of course we'd warm up or something, then he'd smash it on me and like, yep, okay, you
Yeah.
win.
I'm good. Moving on. Let me find some girl to play, and yeah, we'll be good. So
And feel better about yourself. It's like, yeah, I beat her.
yeah, yeah. Iowa State. Let's talk Iowa State here quick. What was what was it like running at Iowa State? Let me pull up one of your pictures here. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, talk about that. How was the recruitment process for that? What was it like getting recruited to run track in college?
Well, the recruitment process I thought was relatively low key. I don't remember the head coach, Coach Steve Lynn, ever coming to Britt and meeting with me. I do remember my head coach at the time, the middle distance coach, Kevin Burke. He came up and he more recruited me than Coach Lynn did,
Okay.
but that's because I was more of an 800 runner as opposed to a 400 hurdler at the time, because they were
Yeah.
looking more for 800 than the 400. But it worked out great.
And what kind of success did you have at Iowa State running track?
Let's see. Huh. I do remember I was running an indoor meet. I believe we were in Nebraska. Might have been my sophomore year. So whatever year that is, because I did redshirt indoor one season. Anyway, might have been 97.
Okay.
And I do know that I wasn't supposed to be running on this D-Med quad, but one of the guy that was supposed to be running that 800 ended up either getting hurt or puking something, whatever the case may have been. They pulled me out of the stands. I went underneath the bleachers and I took off my street clothes, put on my, I don't even know if it was mine, but put on somebody's singlet uniform that I had to wear, ran out there, no warm up, and I go and run an 800, and we ended up getting eighth in that. So I got a medal. I got a big eight. This is big eight at the time, not even big 12. So I have a big eight medal from that race.
Nice. Uh, Did you run all 4 years that you were there?
I did. I ran 4 indoor years and then as well as 4 outdoor years. No, wait, 3. I ran only 3 indoor years, but yes, all 4 outdoor because the indoor track, even though Iowa State has one of the most premier 300-meter indoor tracks in the nation, in my opinion, the curves are still too close. So
Yeah.
my long strides and my poor knees couldn't take cutting it short like that all the time.
Okay.
So I
Um,
didn't do another indoor.
what's the training like for college track compared to high school track with, like in a 1A, 2A type of school? What's the pressure and stress that you have to put on yourself to prepare for that type of competition?
My pressure and stress was nothing more than making sure that my schoolwork was done
Yeah.
before I worried about anything track related. Because if you don't pass your class, you don't run. Same thing as in high school, but it feels like it's more important in college than it was in high school.
Yeah.
But
Um,
training for training for meets were no more difficult. You're doing the same stuff, just add in extra weight. So I was spending more time in the weight room in college than I was in high school.
yeah. A little more
And
of
the
a
guys
commitment
that I was
there.
running with, yeah, the guys on my team in my special race, the 400 hurdles or the 800 or the 600 indoors, faster than me. Because in high school, I had nobody pushing me in those races.
Yeah.
But when I get to college, there's definitely people there to push it.
Yeah. Are you still connected with any of your teammates or coaches from there? Kind of kept in touch? Do you follow Iowa State track still?
I do. Actually, the gentleman we were referring to earlier, Randy Thompson, the 4A, 1A state champ in the 100
Yep.
meters, he stood up in my wedding because he and I were on the same team at Iowa State.
Oh, nice.
So he and I became good friends. He and I lived together for a year off campus at Iowa State because he and I were from God's country
Oh,
up
yeah.
in north central Iowa. Nobody else could understand. That's
Mhm.
where we were from,
Yeah.
God's country.
It's a magical place.
It
How,
is.
how'd Randy do at Iowa State? What kind of success did he have?
Randy was definitely a All American. I can't even remember the race that he ran that in, but I think it might have been one of the relays. He was an All American in that. And he was also a Drake relays champ. I'm not sure if that is an again or if that was like his first relays champ
Mhm.
because of the relay he was on. Um, he was great to be around. He was great, and so were like I can't remember the guy's name. Jason Woods, another guy I lived with for a while. He was a 400-meter champ in the 400 hurdles down in Texas one year because he and I made the finals. And of course, Woodsy pulls away. He took the whole race by himself, not by himself, but he took the win. And Chris Wyckoff, who ran for Ames, he was another roommate at that house. And he ran the 110 hurdles and a bunch of the different relays. He was a great guy. And these guys are still good friends of mine. Some other people that I raced in high school that I didn't even know until I see them in college. Mike Schultz from Knoxville, he was in the medley
Okay.
way back there, but he was in the medley. And Brian Smith from West Marshall back there, but he was in the medley. Uh, what's his name from Matt Jenkins from Fort Dodge St. Edmunds. He ran on the medley. He was an 800 runner as well. Way back there.
How many guys were on the track team at an Iowa State, at a Big 8 type school? How many are on a roster?
And around about 30.
Okay,
Could
that's
be,
that.
could be, 5 less, 10 more.
Yeah.
It always depends. Depends on which event you're looking at as well. There
Okay.
could be 3 guys running the 100, but there's going to be 8 people running the distance relay, but not relays, but the distance events. Because a lot
Okay.
of those guys at Iowa State, a lot of them came from Kenya.
Oh,
From
right. Yeah.
They ran cross country as well, and
Yeah.
they're running the distance. And these guys are winning cross countries. They're winning like the 5,000, the 10,000 outdoors, the 3,000. I know there was a guy that was from Dmitry Drozdov. I cannot remember where he was from, but he was from someplace over in Europe, and he won the 3,000-meter steeplechase. Now that is a race. I
Yeah.
always thought the 400-meter hurdles were a race. That steeplechase, oh man,
Yeah.
that's tough stuff.
Yeah. You gotta have a little screw loose for some of those type races to want to do that. Um, and then you go like those Kenya guys wanting to run marathons. I'm like, I get tired driving my car that far. I don't think I'd want to run that far. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And I assume there'd be more people on a Division One track team, but they must be fairly selective and or have a certain amount of scholarships. I never really knew the ins and outs of that. So
Right.
all right,
Well, I
well
do
we're
know.
oh go ahead.
I do know when I was recruited, I was offered a scholarship. Like, okay, my father went to Iowa State. My brother went to Iowa State. Of course, I'm going to Iowa State, even though my scholarship was just for books. That's all my scholarship was. There's no monetary actual money. It was for books, which was still money since you have to buy your own books at college.
Yeah.
It all evened out in the end.
Yep. Yep. Makes good experience too. It's hard to put a dollar amount on that. So
Yep.
all right, we're gonna get to some football here. Got a few more sponsors, and then we're gonna talk some West Hancock football, and one of my favorite things to talk about. I have Swenson's Hardware is your local independently family-owned hardware store since 1977, located in downtown Britt. Check them out at swensons.doitbest.com. And then Kurt Kopacik, he's sponsoring tonight's episode. Kurt and Dan were classmates. Kurt wanted to point out that Dan was the most naturally gifted athlete in their class and that Kurt was the best looking in their class. So thanks, Kurt, for sponsoring the podcast. And then my brother, Eric Kroll with Ag Performance. Contact Eric at 515-341-3361. If you're looking for a higher net return on your fields, that's Eric Kroll with Ag Performance. And then Kelly Real Estate is my next sponsor. If you're looking for just the right starter home, the perfect forever home, or a unique fixer-upper, or even transition into your retirement home, call Kelly Real Estate at 843-4102. All right, so some football here. You played for Coach Sanger from 1991 to 1994. You went 36-7 in those 4 seasons. 1991 would have been your freshman season. You guys were 8-1, won the North Iowa Conference title, which ended up being the last conference title because then they went to district play after that. They lost in the first round that year to Garner after beating them in the regular season. We know that story. You didn't have any varsity stats that year. I assume you just played JV. What was your JV team like in 91?
Let me see. I think can't remember if it was 9 games or only 7, but I believe we won all of them.
Yeah.
We might have lost one.
Yeah. So
We
future
were
was
we were
looking
pretty
bright.
good. Yeah, we were up and coming, so that worked out well.
Yeah. It's always good. Uh, so that was your freshman year, kind of setting the tone, getting used to high school football. By that point, Britt football, West Hancock football was kind of coming into its own.
Mhm.
84 is kind of when things really got started. Um, was it nerve-wracking playing for Coach Sanger for the first time, showing up to that first practice or camp? Were you nervous, excited? What was kind of that like for you going into that first West Hancock experience?
A little bit of everything.
Yeah,
You're of course nervous, and then when he's telling you to do stuff, you're trying to meet his expectations. Say,
yeah,
how high do you want me to jump, coach? And I'll
yep,
do it.
yep,
It's always trying to please the coach.
yep.
And
And
then
same
once
with
you please
Coach.
him, yep, once you please him, he's on your side.
Yep, you just got to keep it up. Same with Coach Perkins. I mean, he was very well known, and if you can see Dan's shirt, got his Coach Perkins defense shirt on that they got what'd you say, 5-6 years ago, someone was selling those
Yep,
shirts.
yep.
So yeah, you didn't want to disappoint either of those two.
Never. Coach Perkins, he's was my history coach, or not coach, my history teacher back in high school. And you knew him from high school. Didn't seem to work out the same on the football field.
Yeah.
He's a little bit more strict when it came to that area.
Yep. Time for business. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
1992 was your sophomore year. You guys were 8-3, lost in the quarterfinals to North Fayette. Got second in the district. That was the first year of district play, so we got to play some different people. What's that say? Oh, that's cool. They had those made that year for that.
They must have.
That's pretty neat. I've never seen one of those before.
Like I called around and I checked eBay and every place like that for a 93 and 94. I called Mrs. Sanger. I called some other people like Swenson's. Nobody had those years printed. And if they did, no one can find them anymore.
Yeah, you better hold on to that thing. That's gonna be worth millions someday.
I already broke the handle.
All right, it's gonna be worth thousands someday. Yeah. So you recorded 7 tackles. That you're in the record book for that. I assume, were you a backup, kind of got in at the end of games, or did you have a regular role on the defense that year? Do you remember?
I believe I was, so you're saying my sophomore year.
Yep,
I believe I was
1992.
just dressing varsity as a sophomore. There
Yeah.
were only 6 of us, 6 guys that dressed varsity that year. And I would get in on, here, let me look. Some games when you're beating them 55-14, like they'll let you in that fourth quarter.
Yeah.
When you're not beating people, let's say Emmitsburg, we lost 7-12. I don't think I played that game.
Yeah. Probably not.
But when you're shutting people out 23-0 or 15-0, which happened a couple times that year, I was able to get in some of those fourth quarters.
Yeah. Get some good experience.
And I do remember Mr. Perkins, he had what was called the sack attack. There were a few times where I'd go in basically the middle of the game when he called his sack attack guys. Tall guys, big guys, everybody was a defensive end. We're all going for a sack.
Yeah. That sounds about like Coach Perkins right there.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna skip your junior season for a little bit here. Go to your senior season, then come back to 1993. So don't worry, we'll get there. Your senior season was 1994. You guys went 8-2 and lost in the quarterfinals. In the record book, you are tied for 17th in all-time career receptions, 26th in most receiving yards in a season, 22nd in career receiving yards. Twice you're tied for 11th all-time in season touchdown receptions. You're tied for 3rd all-time in career receiving touchdowns. I was talking to my dad this evening when we got home from school and stuff, and said I was doing the podcast with Dan Cooper tonight. And my dad said, "Oh, he was a heck of a tight end. He was a good player. I remember watching him. Obviously, that catch for sure that we'll get to in a minute, but he." Getting older, sometimes things blur together and it's hard to remember this and that. But he goes, I remember watching Dan Cooper. He was a heck of an athlete out there. So, and we're not a passing type of program. So, you know, it's not like we were chucking around 30 times a game. So when the ball was thrown, you had to make the most of your opportunity and catch it, or you weren't going to have too many more chances that game or even that season to get your stats. So you have to get them while you can. So,
I agree.
yeah.
I agree. If you look at those records, Dan, a lot of those records, I'm sure, from the 2000 plus kids that are above where I.
It's a good mix.
Okay.
A lot of them are
Because
from that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm just going to say a lot of those people knew Britt West Hancock is not a passing team. So I was hoping that they'd all be past where I graduated.
Yeah. A lot of the good stats were from that 73 team, the 72 team, and the 71 team. They had some good passing games. And then there's this last season or two. I don't know if you still how close you follow the football program, but that Ryland Barnes kid, he's changing some of those records in a hurry. He's been doing a nice job these last couple seasons catching the ball as well.
And I saw somewhere online that he's going to Iowa State.
Yep, he's going to play football as a preferred walk-on. So,
Yeah.
as a Hawkeye fan, it hurt a little bit, but we have Joseph Smith at Iowa, so we're good there. So 1-1. So let's get to your junior season. That's the big year where you guys made it to the state championship game. You were 12-1, district champs. That season, again, like I said, these stats aren't eye-popping, but you had 6 receptions for 82 yards and 4 touchdowns. So all but 2 of your catches went for scores. You had 28 points that season, which is third on the team, 2 fumble recoveries, some tackles. You guys ran through the regular season with relative ease, and then you ran into Lorenz Marathon in the semifinals. The game was in Britt. Back then, semifinal games were mostly played outdoors. It was a couple years later when they started doing the semifinals in the dome as well as the championship games. So it was in Britt, not Sanger Field at the time because that wasn't named that until 2002, but still the West Hancock football field. You guys were up 14-7 going into the fourth quarter. Lorenz Marathon marched down and scored to go up 15-14. They went for 2. There was 7:44 left in the game. Your quarterback, Randy Lamfers, got picked off, and right there it looked, according to the paper, that was about the ball game. They got a first down, but we did force a punt. We got the ball back at the 19-yard line with 2 minutes and 21 seconds left on the clock, and we had 81 yards to go. I am going to share my screen here, and we're going to watch that last drive. Can you see that, Dan?
Oh, yeah.
All right, here we go. Here's the drive that sent West Hancock to the state championship game in 1993. Give us a sec to load. Gotta love the old VHS feel to this. Feel free to talk about this as you're seeing stuff, what you remember and whatnot.
Oh, some of it though. I'm just watching the play. Let's just see it go.
Little
Oh yeah,
counter
hand off.
there. Who was number 9? Do you remember 9 and 10 were a couple of running backs? Do you remember who that was?
Number 9 was Ted Smith and 10 was Nate Smith.
Nate Smith. What number was De Leon? Was he 40 something?
He was 46, I believe. He's
46.
the fullback.
Okay.
Yep. And as you said earlier that Kurt Kopacik gave you some of this.
Yep, thanks
not
to
quite
Kurt.
Screen time, some of these videos, and he's number 55. He's the center, hiking the ball.
He's 86. You know that guy?
I've seen him before, I think.
86, Dan Cooper.
When I look in the mirror, I've seen him before.
Yeah. Penalty on us there, move the ball back. It just sounds loud there. Like you could just tell there was a buzz in the air with this game.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Number 10.
Yep, Nate Smith, run it down again.
It's like around about the 34. Here's a pass by Lamfers. Trying to pass, he ended up taking and running.
Yep. Good thing he didn't get hurt on that play too.
At this point, are you guys thinking you're going to win the game, or is there any doubt? Were you scared? Maybe right here at this fumble, but
well, there's always that. Besides being the fumble, I was thinking there's no way we're going to make it into the end zone unless you hand it to Nate, and let him run. Let Nate Smith, the star, I felt, of the football team, take it to the town, or
do
just
that.
Throw it in the air.
Let's go. Let's repeat this. Find that. Look at that.
These guys are tackling each other trying to get me, and it didn't work.
Not a good strategy.
Yeah, it worked out great.
And who is that? Coach Sanger just walking out on the field? He must have called the timeout.
Yep, that is Coach Sanger right there.
I don't think he can go out there
Before
that
we,
far anymore.
probably not.
Here's Nate
That's
two.
Nate. That's Nate Smith going for 2. I thought, wasn't it?
Yep, to go, and then that was the final score, 22-15. Let me get this next one up here. Thanks again to Kurt Kopacik for this. These videos are great. This is when KIMT actually cared about Iowa.
You have any volume?
Yeah, it's about as loud as it's gonna go. Yeah, it's not real loud. I can hear it on my end.
We can at least see it. That's
Yeah,
helpful.
the footage is pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's a good video of
There's
Coach Sanger and Coach Timmerman.
Yeah.
Corey Mattoon was a monster on
Corey-
defense. He has a lot of tackles recorded in the record book.
Yeah. Corey Mattoon, good player. Rob Thompson was number 40 right there. Probably shouldn't have said that since he missed the tackle, it looked like.
Forgive you.
That's Ted Smith, number 9.
How cold was it that day? It just looks cold out.
Yeah, it was chilly. It was chilly.
All right, here it is. I
But
like this angle of your catch.
I remember talking, I even have it on a VHS tape. The news reporter talked with me and I said,
Here
"Yep,
it is,
he threw
right
up,
here.
he threw up the ball and it just stuck as if I was cheating." Man, if I had that hair these days, I'd look weird.
I'll
There's
pause right
Bobo.
here. I think that's his name. Bob Sanger, West Hancock head coach. Got the early 90s vibe to it and the glasses.
Yeah.
I miss that guy. Uh, did a lot for a lot of people, so it's neat to hear his voice here and get to hear what he has to say. So yeah, there we go. That's the big catch that made you a West Hancock legend for all time. Um, just to finish out that story though, you guys made it to the championship game, played in Mount Vernon in the dome, up 21-0 at halftime, and then the wheels fell apart and we lost 22-21. Would have been Coach Sanger's second title. Uh, a lot of woulda, coulda, shouldas in that game. How bad did that game hurt?
That one hurt a lot. So I remember going back into the locker room after the fact, tears in my eye. I not only for myself, but for Coach Sanger and the rest of the team. I was feeling for everyone. It's like we all let each other down. So it was painful, but yet it's a learning experience.
And
Next year it won't happen again.
yeah, and I've said this before, like, you know, you guys are still bitter at the fact that they lost a championship game 30 years ago when in fact 95% of kids around the state would have killed just to be in the playoffs, let alone a state championship game. We're pretty lucky where we are, where like, right now if we don't win a state championship, it's a disappointing season. And most kids and most coaches would be like, I'd love to have that disappointing season. we're in a pretty special spot with what we're used to. So losing a game, some people are like, I'd kill to lose that game because I never even got close to it. So,
Right.
and even me playing at West Hancock, I never got past the quarterfinals. So I would have loved to lose a state championship game just to say I was there compared to not getting there. So,
But if you would have been there, Dan, you would not have wanted to be on the losing end.
no, definitely
So
not. Definitely.
it's no fun doing it.
No, that part stinks. But yeah. What else can you say about Coach Sanger, Coach Perkins, your experience playing football at Britt?
Those guys are both amazing. I always looked up to both of them, more Coach Sanger than Coach Perkins, because I was more of an offensive person than I was on Coach Perkins's defense. But I remember Coach Sanger saying in one of those news after the game thoughts, like, yeah, that kid, he can jump like a gazelle and probably dunk it with his feet.
Yep.
But that's just the way life works.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna wrap it up here. I appreciate you coming on here, Dan. Had a good time watching those clips and talking about some track and some football. Had a good time. And thanks again to my 15 sponsors for giving. I told Dan beforehand, a lot of money goes into that Sanger Legacy Fund. So if you're ever interested in learning more about sponsoring the podcast or just simply giving to support that fund, I am a board member along with the Sangers and several other people. We're real excited for the future and the present, and hopefully we can spend some of that money on some state championship memorabilia if this 2022 West Hancock team gets it done again, which we think they can. Next up on the podcast, speaking of, Kevin and Jay and I are doing another playoff podcast on Saturday morning after the new pods get released after the first round action. I'm actually riding up on Friday with Rick to the game. He helps coach, and him and I like to carpool together and talk sports on the way up there and on the way back. And excited to see the team in action in the playoffs. After that podcast, I'll be doing one with Beth Rasmussen, and then the 1987 wrestling team with the Finch boys and Pat Kelly and some other guys. And then Doug Sickles, who was at Kanawha at the junior high there from 92 to 99. And then Brian Benning, he was my defensive coordinator at West Hancock for 3 years before Coach Perkins came back. One episode I'm real excited about are the elementary teachers at Britt Elementary, some of the retired ladies that I had as elementary teachers. I'm excited for that one. That'll be at the end of December. I'd like to get a whole lot of people shouting those ladies out. So if you're interested in that, please message me and let me know that you'd like to do that. Dan, any last minute shout outs or things you forgot to say earlier that you thought of now before we wrap it up?
I would like to thank Kurt Kopacik for those wonderful videos and being able to get those to Dan on time and in the order that they came in. Thank you. And all the sponsors, it's great to have you all sponsoring this wonderful broadcast, because without you, I don't think Dan or anybody in the world will be able to see this wonderful content that we had to provide. So thank you for the sponsors. I hope I didn't take your job, Dan.
Nope, you're good. Nope, you are good. So, well, Dan, I appreciate you coming on here, and thanks again. And it is playoff season here in West Hancock football. To me, it's the most magical time of year. So make sure you get to the game if you can. I know the live stream's always a good option if you live far away, but I'm coming from 2.5 hours away, so can you. But if you absolutely can't, make sure you get on the live stream. Those things aren't cheap to have done in the playoffs. The association makes you pay for that. So thank you to the people that make that possible. But if you can get to the game, get to the game. It's supposed to be like 80 on Friday, so it should be a beautiful night for football. All right, thanks again, Dan, and go Eagles.
Rock on, West Hancock.
You bet. Thanks, Dan.